So I coach this deep backhand movement a lot in squash and in all my lessons. So I just want to compare two videos side by side and some of the big faults in this deep backhand. So as always, this is roughly about the same time that we are both hitting the ball. So we'll use this as a good frame of reference. So first thing you'll probably notice is where I'm moving in from. So I'm moving in from around the kind of the edge of the service box there, and I would have moved in if I was coming from the tee around into there. And the big thing is you'll see this foot placement. That for me is so essential. So if you look at where my toes are facing, they're facing the back wall. My whole body's facing the back wall. Whereas my student here on the left is everything's looking at the side wall for now. So this ability to roll into the corner rather than come at the ball from this way, a lot of people come from the tee and then curve in that way, it's really limiting when you get to that back corner. So I encourage my players to really get through into that position, and I'll just toggle it for a bit so you can see what's happening. That ball's going through, and then you'll see this pretty good, hopefully striking position. That for me is pretty good, as in the racket's up nice and ready, my shoulders are rotated, I've got a slight lean over. Whereas if you watch my student on the right here, look at the left there, look at the low racket position, everything's facing that side wall, so there's very little generation of power at this point. This is a big thing I coach. So let's just observe my feature, this idea of this two-footed hop or this two-footed base. So going from there's this 90-degree movement where ideally you should land with both your feet facing the side wall and your base a little bit spread. So like a lovely spread there. And the feet aren't going to be necessarily exactly in line with each other. That left foot, the back foot, will tend to be a little bit further back. But it's this momentum, this little hop and jump into it that I think is so essential to get right. And then if you look at the student again on the left, look at how all his body momentum is just going into that corner and just going to the sidewall more so. And if I'm honest, that's a really good foot position. That's really nice. That's actually the base I would recommend you get into. But unfortunately, he's got into that base with not much body momentum. And you'll see how his racket's low. He's then having to lift his racket up at the last little bit to generate a bit of power. That gets a little bit wobbly, a little bit difficult, and then it's a little bit stuck. So if you then notice the next bit, let's just watch my exit here on this screen. Look at how I'm able to transfer my body weight really well back to the tee. One thing I talk a lot about is once I've done that right foot out, watch how this left foot now skips behind there, and then I'm back to the tee. If you notice my student on the left, just let's watch how he exits this corner. So there he hits, he comes out, that's okay the first bit, and then he's a little bit stuck. And this is, again, a very common amateur fault. Players will just move back to around about there. This will be their tee position. Even if their opponent's been pushed into the back, they get stuck really in this position there, which is pretty deadly. So hopefully this is making a little bit of sense, and just thinking about your deep backhand corner, how you can get some of these key elements in it. It's definitely something I'd love players to practice, to be able to turn towards the glass, turn to the back there, get that footwork going. Two-footed hop, this takes a little bit of time, but if you just notice the hop and the momentum there, as I hit, I'm really nice and sunk. And if I'm honest, these two images are not too far off. So that's really interesting that, the image on the left, I'll just zoom in a bit, the student, and then myself, very similar image here, but really different position that we get it into, isn't it? There's a lot more going on my image on the right. There's a lot more body weight, a lot more momentum. You can just see that striking position there, how I'm tilted over there. I've rotated really well. In simple terms, I'm really coiled in this position. Then as I hit, I'm able to sink, use my follow through. Notice how my follow through pulls my right foot out. That's such a big connection. I talk a lot about tethering the wrist and that together. So there's a little connection between those two, right wrist and right foot. Pulling out and then able to release that follow through nice and high, extending upwards and back towards the tee, pulling me out, and then I'm back on that tee area ready to play that next shot.